Those were the days. I miss those days, but we don't have to miss Charlie Batch. He's here, 12-year NFL vet, Lions, Steelers, two-time Super Bowl champion. Charlie, how are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm so good. It's great to see you. Lots of storylines going on with the Steelers. Who knew? Usually Steelers do not own the off-season storylines.
And for whatever reason, they are owning them this year. They have been talked about since the start of the calendar year in March. And it's one of the same things that in this position with the Steelers, just they haven't been in this situation in a long time.
Before we dig into it, let's just celebrate something good before things get messy, right? Congratulations, early congratulations, Charlie. June 14th, you're inducted into the National High School Football Hall of Fame in Canton. Exciting. That's exciting. Go Ironmen, right?
Absolutely. Those are my days right there. You can see the picture of Steel Valley High School. I was an Ironman there located in Munhall. So having the opportunity to play for Steel Valley was something that was, truly a blessing for me, but also to be recognized into the National Hall of Fame is truly an honor. I'm looking forward to June 14th.
All of my producers stopped in the meeting and said, Steel Valley High School is the coolest name of a high school I've ever heard. That's like pretty badass. You gotta admit. That's exciting.
And the nickname and the mascot came from the Ironman because U.S. Steel literally was located in Homestead, and during World War II, that's where a lot of the production of the steel was actually made there. So it's really monumental around Homestead.
My producers didn't tell me that, but they did inform me that your senior year you led the team to #1 ranking, which is a lot to be proud of. And you had such an amazing career. You're crushing it on the TV side and the radio side, which is what I love and sort of what I started my career with. But you would know how you're plugged into this fan base, the pulse of how everyone's feeling about the quarterback situation. Let's start with the fan perspective. How are the fans handling what? I don't know. I guess I would describe as patience meets agony.
Yeah, it's tough because they've been spoiled for 18 years with Ben Roethlisberger at the helm since 2004. But since he retired, here you are now with your fifth potential opening day starter that you're having since he retired. So this is something that, people are in the situation and they're trying to figure out who is the quarterback moving forward. And everybody is just kind of wondering. Of course, Mason Rudolph is at the helm. A young Will Howard is there as OTAs are continuing as we speak. So this is going to be something that everybody's going to monitor as we continue to get to training camp.
Let's say the Aaron thing doesn't happen. I mean, what are the chances this Aaron thing doesn't happen?
I mean, he is a free agent. He gets a chance to do whatever he wants to do. And for whatever reason, the Steelers weren't able to lock him up since he was released from the Jets. And here he is now, taking his time on making a decision, but they have to move forward because they brought Mason Rudolph here in the offseason. Of course, he has to answer that question as it relates to when Aaron could potentially show up. And then he have to now mentor a young Will Howard that actually was drafted here. So it's a tough situation to be in, but this is the business of the NFL. You have to be able to block out the distractions, but at the same time, do your job moving forward.
It's not really been the business of the Steelers, and it's not, it is the consistency at that position. And what you're saying is the spoiled. You said it, not me. Don't get mad at me, Pittsburgh, about that spot. But it's, the waiting, we are a storied franchise. We're not waiting on someone. Like there's this whole thing. What is the latest that he can come to the team and have you not worried about how it will affect the team?
I think if he could sign before the training camp date starts, because that would allow him time to learn the offense. Remember, this is not an offense that he spent the majority of his career in. So you really only have about 10 days left of the offseason. OTAs are finishing this week for the Steelers. They have mini camp Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then from there, there's a short break. So for me, I want to see him coming in here learning the offense. Can he show up in training camp a month from the start date of the season and get it done? Possibly. But again, the terminology is going to be something that he has to get familiar with. And of course, learning the players that he's going to play with. 50% of this roster is a turnover from last year to where we are now. So I'm learning the players. I can only imagine him trying to learn the players and people that he's going to potentially play with. So those are things that you all kind of play in the factor as it relates to when he signs. But I would love to see him sign before training camp if he becomes a member of the Steelers.
If it doesn't happen by training camp, would you, knowing the ownership, lots change, but not that, right? Not who owns the team, the people who run the team, the coach who runs the team before camp, you're saying. Do you then rip it up and say, want to bring in Kirk Cousins? Like how much do you think they're flirting with that idea? Does that idea pique your interest if the Aaron thing, it doesn't move forward?
Well, I did not sit in the meetings with them, so I don't know what they're forecasting as it relates to what the quarterback class looks like in 2026 as they loaded up on draft picks. But if you do decide to go out and get a Kirk Cousins, yes, he can play, but what is that draft capital that you're going to have to give up? And of course, that's a big cap number for him to be here 1 or 2 years, because even if you do acquire him, do they wait to develop Will Howard, or maybe do you go to the 2026 draft and draft somebody there? So there's a lot of different scenarios that can play itself out, but I think a lot of it has to do on how Mason Rudolph performs over the next 6 practices. If he performs well and there's a comfortability that the organization has with him moving forward in training camp, because he did get it done a few years ago as they, march into the playoffs and he was waiting for his opportunity, but yet they didn't think that he was the guy last year. They ended up bringing Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in, but now here he is with his opportunity. So what does that look like for him? So I think the next 6 days will actually play that out as it relates to how comfortable the Steelers organization are with Mason Rudolph heading into training camp.
Who do you think should start week 1, even if Aaron signs now? Who has the leg up?
But for me, it depends on when Aaron Rodgers gets here. If he shows up the day of training camp, that means there's about 4 weeks before he actually gets ready for the start of the season. If that is the case, I still believe that Mason Rudolph should be the starter as the season opens up. And of course, allowing Aaron to now work through the nuances of the offense. That's just my personal opinion. But if he signs prior to training camp starting and allowing him a couple extra weeks to learn this offense, then Aaron Rodgers probably will be the starter heading into training camp.
I met this, Charlie, I met this Will Howard. I've met Mason as well. And you have a lot of faith in him, as you're saying. The idea of him starting with Aaron Rodgers in that uniform on the roster is sort of bananas, but it's a great opinion. Probably what's best for the team to kick off the year with experience, all the new pieces you're saying. This Will Howard kid kind of stole my heart a little bit, though, Charlie. Like, I was so impressed with him. I sat with him at the rookie premiere. Big Ben was taking him under his wing, like they're close, all of that. Do you have any thoughts on Will Howard? As like, obviously he was drafted, he's a local boy.
Yeah, I mean, I love what Will brings to the table, right? When you talk about that mentorship, they share the same agent with Ryan Tollner, Ben Roethlisberger, and Will Howard. So they've already started that relationship there. And then you add him into the group, and Mason Rudolph is now mentoring him as well. He's getting the best of both worlds in that particular perspective. When you look at where he was drafted, the excitement that he had coming into the situation, that lets you know that they had the Steelers on the radar as a team that they would hope to be selected towards, because maybe it gives them the opportunity to play right away. So when those things happen, there's not a lot of pressure on him at this particular point, because he's not even being talked about. I love the talent that he brings to the equation. We know what he did at Ohio State, leading them to a national championship, but I love what he did at Kansas State, because that's where he didn't have all the talent around him, but still was able to go out there and deliver and making a lot of people excited about him. So I'm excited to watch him during the preseason.
When you hear that Big Ben sort of, he had him at his house, he had him on his podcast, like Will was telling me that he texts Big Ben for advice and all of that. Like, you were the one giving Big Ben advice once upon a time. What do you know that Big Ben is sharing with Will that you probably taught him, and that's how it goes?
Yeah, it's just that experience, right? You're not talking, at the surface level. You're like, here are the things that I've done. It's one thing to do it on the field, but also what are you doing off the field from a leadership perspective, building relationship with teammates? That's something that he's going to continue to do. Ben, when he entered the league in 2004, we were a veteran team. So there were a lot of veteran guys around that he can absorb, learn from, and then waiting that opportunity for it to be his team totally, because you weren't going to walk into Pittsburgh during that time. It was Jerome Bettis's team when he actually got here, Joey Porter, those players that were here on that side. So as he evolves into this particular space, he's going to continue to have those conversations with Ben Roethlisberger. And hopefully I played a little part of it over those years as I've back been up now to the 11 years, that he was able to take something from me, kind of share it, and continue to pass it on to some of the things that hopefully that I shared with him that helped him along the way. And now he's able to pass that knowledge on.
Yeah, outside of the Will Howard experience and how he carries himself, and like, obviously he is a winner, which you mentioned. He understands, I think he very much understands what is the uniqueness of being a Pittsburgh Steeler, being around it his whole life. I thought that was a unique sort of, thing. But Mason Rudolph has the experience. But when I look at both of them, even just from a football perspective, I'd love to hear just the running ability of a Will Howard. How much does that matter in their quarterback room and their decision process? I'm looking at an offense where Justin Fields thrived last year. Will Howard, is a solid running quarterback in an Arthur Smith run offense. That has to be an advantage here in this mix.
It does. And you can see it was a different offense whenever Justin Fields was in there last year versus Russell Wilson. Justin was able to use his legs. Will Howard is very similar in that particular manner. And we know the mindset of Arthur Smith. He wants to run the football. And sometimes the quarterback has to pull the ball down, or some design runs that you have to actually use your legs and get the job done. So those are things that are going to play itself out. But that is, kind of down the line. They want to make sure he's learning from the pocket first. And then from there, allow everything else to kind of materialize from that particular perspective. So there's not a lot of pressure on Will at this particular point, and that's the one thing that he has an advantage of, because all he has to do is put his head in the playbook, go out there and get the job done while everybody else is being talked about.
I feel like people aren't talking about Mason Rudolph. I think you are. It's nice to hear you talk. I think people nationally, the expectation is not big for Mason Rudolph. I don't think anybody's expecting him to come and light it up. Is that what's the difference in pressure that I guess right now Mason's the heir apparent? I feel like I don't know. It's an interesting way to, you're the former quarterback, but I don't hear much about Mason Rudolph as far as pressure on him. If Aaron doesn't come in there, I think Will's going to try to edge him for that gig.
And that's possible, right? And I think, in 2019, Mason Rudolph had the opportunity when Ben was injured in that second game with his elbow, played during the course of that season, but didn't overwhelm the Steelers fans and the organization as they move forward. They didn't give him that opportunity because they ended up drafting Kenny Pickett as the number one choice. So he never got the opportunity here. One thing about the NFL, the longer you play, and if you're not a starter, the league considers you a backup. And that's the position that Mason is at this particular point. Doesn't mean it can't change. Here's his opportunity this year to now change the minds of everybody. So he has that opportunity. So it's just one of those things that, but again, when you're drafted, that's where everybody has this nice, shiny new toy, and they get excited to get him out there at some particular point. And that's why there's going to be more excitement for Will Howard to enter the preseason game versus Mason Rudolph starting the preseason game.
I like where Mason Rudolph, I like the complexion of it as a fan. Like I look at it, obviously, I don't think I look at it differently, but I look at it as like he can easily have his Geno Darnold moment here. He has this opportunity to rewrite. He went 3-0, back in 2023 in his starts, but the expectations are low. Like I think Mason has the opportunity to blow everyone away. I think I like low expectations and knock them out. But then I guess if you're Mason, it's never worked out for you. This is finally your moment to do that. So the pressure on himself is super interesting. I can't get over like the dynamic, and Tomlin well, of course, playing for him, being around him all this time. Like, will him and Aaron work seamlessly? He shows up today. He shows up. Like, why do we have so much faith that will work?
Well, I think, people are leaning back on, okay, Mason was drafted here, a lot of different scenarios. You had Duck Hodges that were brought in at some point. And then ultimately, whenever Ben Roethlisberger, after that 2020 season, he was unsure whether he was going to come back, the organization had a decision to make. They had at that point to say, okay, Mason is the guy that we think is going to be moving forward because he was drafted in the third round. They did have a first round evaluation grade on him, but yet they did not give him that opportunity. So they brought Ben Roethlisberger back. And of course, Kenny Pickett, Mr. Trubisky, there was a couple years there, but yet Mason went 3-0 at the time that he was. So when you entered the 2024 season, the Steelers, the numbers obviously didn't work out. That's why he ended up going to Tennessee with the opportunity to play. All he can do is lean on that experience to now say, hey, I went out, tried to prove that I could be a starter. Things didn't work out. Coaching changes happen. And here I am back to the organization that believed in me from day one because they drafted me. I'm just hoping for that opportunity. Mike Tomlin feels comfortable with that because when you win games for him, guess what? He's going to put you in this particular scenario. That's what Mason did. But again, this is not the same offense that he played in 2 years ago versus what he is now. So these are things that we're just learning to see how he's capable of learning this offense and what is he going to do to prove to this organization that they don't need to go out and get an Aaron Rodgers.
Into the great wide open. We are in June. I can't imagine Mike wakes up and the patience that would take is admirable. It's absolutely admirable on Tomlin's side, and he'll have everyone else ready to go no matter who it is. And even when they have everybody, he's going to make them compete and run around like he does running a tough camp at Latrobe every year. The TJ Watt thing, I'd love to ask you and get your perspective, Charlie. Is it become like, to be so honest with you as a fan, I'm like, I don't think this was going to blow up into anything. I didn't think the contract situation was going to become a story. Do you think he finishes his career as a Steeler?
That's tough to say because I don't know how long he wants to play, right? Typically, you sign a 4-year deal and then let's see what happens later on in his career. He needs to get closer to that Super Bowl, if not winning that Super Bowl, for him to be convinced that he wants to stay here. He wants to be a one helmet guy. Cam Hayward showed him how that works, but ultimately, the goal in Pittsburgh is not to win division titles, it's to win a Super Bowl. So he's going to pay attention to how the roster is made up. The last time he went through a contract dispute, he went all the way down to the start of the regular season. So that's not going to change now. As he's looking at all the things that has happened throughout this offseason, it's like, okay, people say, hey, you should take a hometown discount to build the roster around you. Well, that's great until they bring a DK Metcalf in that hasn't played it down in this league, but yet they gave him a huge contract. And then you turn around and see what your peers are doing. In that Myles Garrett situation, he was like, I want to get out of Cleveland until they showed him the money. So these are things that are going to happen behind the scenes that ultimately TJ is seeking. Is he a Hall of Famer? Absolutely he is. It's just a matter of what does it look like, because the only thing missing on his resume right now is a Super Bowl title, and this guy is hungry for it, and he's doing everything he can to will this team to that Super Bowl championship.
I really thought you were going to, Charlie, I really thought it was your obligation as a Steeler great to say he's not going anywhere. But now it sort of he could really go somewhere else.
What's the business of football? I mean, when you look back and I look at it and I just say, no matter how great you are, there's a strong chance the team that you start with, you're not going to finish with, right? Look how great Peyton Manning was. Hey, the Indianapolis Colts released him. He finished his career in Denver. Look at the great Tom Brady. Okay, they released him. He finished in Tampa Bay. Drew Brees, great of a passer he was. People forgot he started with the Chargers. They gave up on him, and that's how he ended up with the Saints. So all I say is the business, projects kind of where you go as it relates to what you're looking for. Circumstances obviously plays a factor, but it's just the fact of at some point in your career as an NFL player, you have to be prepared to move on at some particular point. I'm not saying that it's happening right now for TJ. All I'm saying is the longer you get into your career, when things are missing off your resume, you start to pay attention to everything around you.
The Myles Garrett example is a good one for Steelers fans to hold on to if you want him to stay, of course, there. And he ended up staying. But, I mean, that only puts more pressure, I imagine, on Aaron, on the get Aaron in here. I want to be here with an established quarterback, or is Kirk Cousins going to be enough for TJ to want to stay? It's an interesting situation. He's going to want to go somewhere, it sounds like, with an established quarterback. Some of the rumors about TJ would be Packers, which JJ was rumored to go to at the end of his career. Obviously, Wisconsin boys. Thoughts on that? Or and the Bills are another name floating around. What would be a good destination for TJ aside from the Steelers side of it?
Well, I think he has to now, if you're thinking that direction, then that means it's going to be harder for you to move if you sign an extension. If you take it to unrestricted, which he only has a year left on his deal, then that changes the whole conversation as it relates to what that looks like. And then we'll be back on this show talking about, hey, when is TJ going to sign a deal? Are they going to franchise him, or is he going to move on in free agency? There's a lot of different things that can play itself out. And just like you mentioned, his brother JJ, people forget that he finished with the Cardinals. But because you remember how great he was with the Texans. So when you had that experience to lean on, what processes, what were you thinking about when you decided to move on to the next organization? Those are conversations that players are going to have. And he has somebody on the inside to be able to lean on that to say, okay, take me through that. I don't want to go anywhere. But if I do, what does that process look like?
And I'll say a team with, I don't know, a young quarterback on a rookie deal that has plenty of cap space for somebody who wants a big deal, like the Commanders, are also interesting as a team, a destination potentially for TJ.
When you have a young quarterback like that, you have free agents that say, we believe in that guy. And that's where you start to get veterans willing to take a little less to go make the team great, to go out there and hopefully accomplish that championship.
That's true. And you're sitting there and it's a very interesting case of, Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers in that division, or do I want to go down with the Commanders in that division? Tough slides either way, but a ring, a priority, being taken care of, a priority. Very interesting time, uncharacteristically in this offseason for the Steelers. You're a busy man. TV, radio, keeping up with everybody. And you have the Best of Batch Foundation celebrating. This is insane. 26 years. Congratulations on that. Camp Batch is happening next week. What do we need to know?
Thank you. Yes, what you see here is this is our Best of the Batch Foundation. We're an educational foundation, and we serve over 4,000 kids annually throughout 9 counties throughout southwestern PA. And what you see right here is school lets out. We pick up. And we have Camp Batch here. We have a NASA theme that we have this year. And ultimately we have 257 kids that are registered this year. We're going to have them for 8 weeks, 4 days a week between 9 o'clock and 3:30. So we just get excited about what we're doing at Best of the Batch Foundation, all the people that believe in the mission and vision of what we're trying to accomplish there. It's going to be an awesome summer. And for anybody who wants to learn more about what we're doing, they can go to batchfoundation.org. If you want to sponsor a kid, sponsor a meal for a kid, there's opportunities to do so during that time. So either way, we are excited. We're grateful and thank you for everybody who believes in what we are doing at Best of the Batch Foundation.
And it is, I mean, this is a 33,000 square foot clubhouse that you built that is new for these kids. And if you sponsor them, what do they get? They get 8 weeks. It provides youth with physical activity. They get field trips. There's meals. I was looking at it this morning and my mind was blown. And it's such hard work and such dedication. And I mean, summer learning loss is a real thing. Educational enrichment is a real thing. So thank you for everything that you've always done. And the educational clubhouse, just so I want to come. Like, it looks insane, Charlie. It looks crazy.
The invitation is open. Please stop on by. I know you're coming in and out of Pittsburgh every once in a while, but when you do, please make it a point to stop by. We went from 5,300 square feet to 33,000 square feet. And these are the times that are important. As school lets out, people are going on vacation. People forget, because there is a hunger crisis in this country right now. People forget that kids depend on breakfast and lunch during the school year. And when that doesn't happen, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. And we're trying to just create that gap to make sure that we know that they're going to get a breakfast, lunch, and a snack before they leave, to make sure that they're able to go out there to compete throughout the course of the day. So again, we just are thankful and grateful for everybody that is believing in what we're doing. So you go to batchfoundation.org if you want to potentially look to see what we're doing, how we can collaborate, because we love to collaborate with folks, but we don't do all things well. That's how we've been able to last over the last 26 years. So
26.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk about that. And Kay, you are awesome. Thank you. And thank you for everything that you do.